CM Punk is planning a return to wrestling. That's the big headline. There's more on Brock Lesnar returning to the WWE as well, and where we are headed in the world, the crazy world that is CM Punk. Plus, we're going to be talking the next few videos on this here channel, including Dave Meltzer versus The Rock and Royal Rumble winner spoilers. We're going to be talking Will Ospreay and where he's going to land next, War Games, Impact Wrestling, TNA versus AEW, and NXT's position on the pantheon of wrestling shows. So, a lot to talk about. When it comes to the whole wacky world of wrestling, and we'll be diving in with a lot of detail about it as we go. But welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. Those were our headlines. Be sure to hit like as you come in as we head towards some new records. 37 people already here. This is wrestling news top to bottom. That's what we do here. That's what we will do here. And we share plenty of things that you cannot find anywhere else. We're also question and answer, so jump in with your questions as well, and we will get through as much news as we can before the hour is up. I'm also planning, by the way, a little bit extra when it comes to the members only side over the next few days. A lot of details as to my working process and the information that I get that hopefully you guys will really enjoy. But first, without any further ado, Brock Lesnar. Yes, we're not starting with CM Punk. Let's wait till people start to fill up. Brock Lesnar is now being reported that he is not going to be at Crown Jewel 2023, largely because the WWE do not believe that they require him. Now, I've reported already at some length that there is no interest in Brock Lesnar returning to the WWE just yet, and the most likely date of his return is around Royal Rumble time. He's been looked at as a potential challenger to Seth Rollins to keep Rollins in a good spot going into WrestleMania. There's also talk of Brock Lesnar returning at the Royal Rumble itself for a stare down between Brock Lesnar and Gunther. Yes, you heard me right. There is talk of a stare down in the Royal Rumble of Brock Lesnar and Gunther. So there's a few different ideas being passed around, but Brock Lesnar and Gunther, both big fans of the idea of wrestling each other, and you can feel pretty certain that that moment will come. Damian Priest wants in on that apparently, but waiting to hear more on that. I don't see it. Brock Lesnar is not currently planning to work Survivor Series or Crown Jewel, though that could change going forwards. What I will say outside of that though is that Brock Lesnar does take pretty much every year a hiatus around this time. He's currently waiting for a new contract to be offered to him. The WWE, particularly Vince McMahon as Endeavor and TKO, are looking at offering him a deal that also includes the UFC. That's something he's keen to make happen. So that is where we are with Brock Lesnar, likely to return around Royal Rumble time. There is talk of him facing Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, just as a way to reintroduce himself, but there's also talk of him being in the Royal Rumble itself and having potentially a stare down with Gunther. If you're excited for the idea of Brock Lesnar versus Gunther, sound off in the comments and let me know as I start to say hi to people. Firstly, Omega, welcome back. Good to see you, mate. I hope you're well. Welcome back to the show. We had plenty of people chatting away before we went live. I want to say a massive thank you to the amount of people who were here before we go live is incredible, and it does hugely boost the amount of people here when we get started. In the first 5 minutes, we've already reached 63 viewers, which is fantastic and really shows how quickly the numbers can grow when people are hitting that like button. Just to be clear, 1 minute away from 5 past, 5 likes away from a new record. Our record at the moment is 32 likes at 5 past. If you can make that happen, there are 65 of you now. I'd be very, very grateful. So plenty of people already in the chat. I'm going to say hello to several of you after my last comment. Sai says 17 waiting before we're live. It's quite an achievement. I'm very, very happy with it. Rizal says hi, Tom. Leon says hi, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you. Raymond says hello, Tom. How are you doing well? I've not read that one. Hello, Raymond. Doing very well, thank you. Riyadh says, hey, Tom. Hope you and your family are doing good. Doing very well, thank you, Riyadh. Lovely to see you. Roger says, I went crazy at the end of Bound for Glory when Impact Wrestling announced TNA is coming back in January. Hard to kill pay-per-view. I was so happy. We will have more on that. Spider-Boss says, do you think WWE is overexposing the Judgment Day? Nope, because they're going to be very clearly involved in War Games. Spider-Boss, yes, we're talking CM Punk next. That will be our next piece of news. Good evening, Chris. Nice to see you, mate. Chief believes CM Punk will go to WWE and has said it several times, so very consistent on it. Daniel says, yo, Daniel, how are you? Spider-Boss says, I always wondered how real was the Charlotte and Becky argument of 2021? Real. Christoph says, Tom, good evening, mate. Hope you're doing well. Best from Germany. Welcome. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well as well. Eric says, good evening, Tom. Saw the CM Punk video from yesterday. Very insightful. Thank you, Eric. I do see that a lot of people are watching those videos pretty religiously, and I'm very, very happy with that. Thank you kindly for checking in and enjoying it. For those who did see the CM Punk video from yesterday, let me know. How did I do? Did you like it? Also, one last thing. We did hit 33 likes by 5 past. Thank you to all of you for breaking our record. 2 more gets to 35, just throwing that out there. Kervin says, people hype around TNA, but it's going to be the same like Impact Wrestling. Nothing changes. More on that shortly. Marcel says, hi, Tom. Hello, Marcel. Spider-Boss says, Brock Lesnar versus Gunter. Yeah, big meaty men slapping meat. Chris loves the idea of Brock versus Gunter and does not like the idea of Lesnar versus Rollins. Michael is here, says, hi, Tom. Hello, Michael. Riyadh says, remember to like the video, guys. They have, and they absolutely continue to do so. Thank you, everyone. I'm doing well, Marcel. Hopefully the chat is also. Eric says, Gunter versus Brock Lesnar is a kaiju-style dream match at WrestleMania 40. I mean, it absolutely would be. I would go higher personally for Gunter, but we'll see how that plays out. Raymond says, Brock and Gunter will have chops and suplexes galore. I'm already ready for it. Kervin says, what's next for Io Sky? More title defenses. Bianca Belair seems next up. Jordan says, hello, Tom. Gunter versus Lesnar is money, and I wholeheartedly agree with that one. Thank you, Sai, for dealing with that situation. Juan says, hey, Tom. Hello, Juan. Lauren says, hi, Tom. Excited for this. Welcome, Lauren. Razar says, Meltzer's reported War Games won't be brand versus brand. Do you have anything on this? Yes, I do. Spider-Boss says, do you think Trinity retains against Deonna? Yes, I do. Riyadh says, the video on CM Punk was great, Tom. I really enjoy your long-form videos. Please do let me know your opinions on the long-form videos, the way that I break them down and the way that I lay it out. After we talk CM Punk in just a moment, we will be talking about my plans for the future of the videos on the channel, including the next one, long-form, on Sunday. There's a reason I'm doing long-form at the moment. It's something called average view duration. The higher that is, the more YouTube advertises us, the more the channel grows. And if you've seen, the first video in that train has already received more than 30,000 views. It's a big number. Just throwing that out there. It's a big number. Thank you, Marcel. KJ says, what's up, Tom and chat? Tom, I have a random wrestling-related question, but I forgot. Hopefully it comes back. One says, hey, Tom, is AEW in trouble in terms of selling tickets? They've lost a lot of fans. I don't think they've lost fans per se. I think they built up pretty heavily to Wembley and unfortunately have not been able to sustain that momentum. Wrestling is cyclical. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Yes, KJ, there was a little bit more on Punk. Fleming is also talking CM Punk. Razar says, love the long-form videos. It's great to see them doing so well. Thank you, Razar. It really is sort of changing the way I'm working the channel just for the hell of it. Eddie says, what's your opinion about Ospreay getting the same agent of Brock Lesnar and Triple H to get a great contract? I heard Triple H wants him so bad. More on that shortly. Leon says, no interest in seeing a 5-minute Brock Gunter match with 4 suplexes, a few chops and F5. Brock won. Would prefer Gunter in the world title scene. I would also very much like Gunter in the world title scene. Brock has not pitched that. I'm just going to throw this out there. I think you'd be very happy with the match. I've not got much, but what I've got is good. Sai, would you mind dealing with Fleming? It seems like we've got a clone here. Leon says, no, I've already read that one. Spider-Boss says, Bayley is really good, helping Io to retain the women's title. You know Io is winning when Bayley gets involved. Absolutely, and this is another reason I think Bayley is going to get a big win in the future. Andrew says, hello, Tom. Been a while. Really enjoy your videos and shorts. Also, have you had time to play Marvel's Spider-Man 2 game yet? I have not. I have watched Spider-Man 1 played by Johnny Chiodini. For anyone who doesn't know, he was working on Eurogamer with someone I really quite enjoy the work of, Aoife Wilson. I thoroughly recommend their playthrough of Bloodborne, and I watched it there, but I have not actually had time to play it yet. It's mostly just something I put in the background while I'm working. So, CM Punk. We're 10 minutes in. Hopefully we're all there. We have 41 likes. Give me 4 more. And we get to 45 because we've got 80 people here. Can we keep that train rolling, please? So firstly, a question to everyone. When it comes to CM Punk, where do you want him to land when he returns to wrestling? Because I'm told he has no plans in leaving wrestling. To my knowledge, CM Punk is still looking for a new home, and he has every intention of continuing to work in the wrestling world. He wants to prove a point to AEW and to Tony Khan now, a clear point that you had me, you lost me, and you will suffer because of it. So where do you want CM Punk? I've reported previously at some length that there is very little interest from the WWE. You may know that that has changed from no interest to very little interest, because there is someone really quite high up who's mentioned the possibility of a CM Punk return to the WWE. Now, to my knowledge, that's not going to change anything. You might say that this person doesn't have that much power to actually make that work. But what I will say is that CM Punk seems determined to return to wrestling, and there are a number of different companies bidding for him at this point in time. There has been a discussion with New Japan, though I do not believe at this point that there is actually much interest from the CM Punk side, but CM Punk has taken a tour of Impact Wrestling, now TNA, as I'm seeing pop up in the chat as well. He has taken a tour there, in which I'm told he spent a little bit of time chatting to Will Ospreay about their different plans going forwards. You might say the WWE letters came up in discussion with Will Ospreay. CM Punk was there. He has actually been at a few Impact shows at the moment, and is actually very excited about the possibility of working for them. What he would need is for TNA, as it is being rebranded, to be elevated pretty severely to get to a point where he believes it to be worthy of him. However, we are extremely close to that point where CM Punk goes to Impact Wrestling. As I've said, he has no plans at this point in time to leave wrestling, and one huge giveaway is that while CM Punk is still actively working to create the impression that the intention is that the WWE should be signing him, while that is currently what he's working on, you may note that the report that he was backstage in TNA came from House of Wrestling. I wonder who the source may have been. Richard says, hello Tom, any news regarding Bobby Lashley's group and if they'll be getting new entrances / group name? At this point, no. There doesn't seem to be any intention to conglomerate them in that manner. They are very happy with the work that they're doing though, and it looks like long term this is a faction that's going to get some serious investment. Also says, hello Tom, is Judgment Day opening tonight's Raw to introduce new tag titles? Not to my knowledge, no, but I don't have the script. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think Cody and Jay will get their rematch at Crown Jewel? It seems likely. The tag team, to my knowledge, is not over as of yet. We will still see them working together, and Judgment Day do have a few things left to answer. Riyadh says the long form videos really get on the YouTube algorithm well, especially with the title being something interesting and relevant. I'm quite happy with the titles I've been able to put together, though I have had, and I need to be aware of this, a few people approach me and say, that's wrong. At which point I've said to them, have you watched the video? And they've said, no. Like, what? Michael Gillis, if you're here, hang your head in shame. You're not the only one, but certainly you've got history for it. Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing? Doing very well, thank you Noob, welcome to the show. One wants Mercedes Money versus Shida, says book it for the title. Spiderboss says, watching Trinity on Impact makes me think WWE never saw on her. Trinity is really good. Yeah, she was someone they wheeled out when they wanted a certain dynamic. I think that's the best way I can possibly describe it without going a bit accusatory. Richard says, hello Tom, in your opinion, do you see Io or Bayley doing the turn? I see Io leading to a Bayley face turn and Rumble win. I go the other way personally. I think Bayley turns on Io, with Dakota Kai staying with Bayley, though I do accept that doesn't seem to be what they're hinting at the moment. Noob says, what's next for Charlotte Flair? She will hover in and around the championship. I do expect that she will feature in War Games. Christoph says, one thing I've got to ask you from time to time, as you know, how's New Japan doing recently? Where would you rate their shows at the moment? Royal Quest 3 was a lot of fun. As long as they have Will Ospreay, they're in a very good spot. And of course, they also have people like Zack Sabre Jr. That was a great match. What I will say is that losing Jay White hurt, and losing Will Ospreay, if that happens, is going to hurt more. Leon says, whilst I like Brock, his matches lately, especially with Bobby, have been very formulaic and kind of boring for me. I see him versus Gunter being no different. I get what you're saying. We know he can turn it on for usually smaller wrestlers such as AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, but he hasn't turned it on for a while. Michael says Punk went to AEW to get back at WWE. He wants to go to WWE to get back to AEW. Spot on. I could not agree more. Spider-Boss says, personally, I'd like to see Punk in WWE. I would love to see Punk versus Seth Rollins. David Leary wants him in WWE. Sean in WWE. KJ wants him in WWE. King Isaac wants him in Ring of Honor. How you doing, Ed? Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you. Leon says WWE, but unlikely it will happen. Raymond says he can work high school gym shows for all I care. Adrian says TNA. Juan says TNA. Marcel says TNA. Richard says, I'd prefer Punk in WWE. I'm just not interested in the possible TNA opponents for Punk, while I'd like a Roman, Seth and Cody match. Riyadh says it'd be interesting to see him suck up his bride and go back to Vince, but he's soured on me so much due to his AEW backstage antics. Daniela says, Nick Aldis has settled into the SD, as in SmackDown GM role quickly, kicking out Adam Pearce. Yeah, that really made a clear indication of what his future's going to be. Backward says it's probably the best he stays away, but I feel he may end up back in WWE. KJ says, we all knew he wasn't done with wrestling. He didn't come back from retirement to do what he did in AEW. I mean, he kind of did, to be fair. Eric says, I'd let him go to WWE, more specifically Raw. Kervin suggests NWA. Adrian says, Ospreay, AEW, Punk, TNA. More on Ospreay shortly. Blue says, I like the long videos, Tom. I would perhaps advise a bit of tidying up, more structure and editing, but I know you have a life and another job. I appreciate that, Blue. I am looking at more editing software so I can cut out a bit of it. The Sasha Banks video, for example, I wasn't planning for it to be 25 minutes, but I had the sources, I planned it out, and I feel confident with my planning. The issue is, admittedly, unfortunately, I don't edit it as tightly as I should, and I think you're absolutely right to call it out. I appreciate that. Bailey says, WrestleOps reporting that WWE is now selling tickets behind the stage for Survivor Series to expand capacity to almost 17,000. They are indeed, that is via WrestleTix. Razar says, honestly, CM Punk should go to TNA. They're the ones to gain the most from him joining and help take them to the next level again. Christoph says, okay, I'd love to see Punk back in WWE eventually, but first I would love to see him have a good run in New Japan. I believe you that his impact is more likely, but since you asked what we prefer, I did ask that, Christoph, and you're absolutely welcome to share your opinion here. KJ says, how possible is it that WWE is hiding a possible Punk return? If you want to go Berry, go ahead. I'm not going to guess whether or not that's happening, because I don't believe it's happening in any way, shape or form. Spider-Ball says, do you think Cody and Jay could win the tag team titles back? At the moment, yes, because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have been broken up, so Cody and Jay are the top face team. Spider-Ball says, if I have to pick who's turning on who, I would have Io turning on Bayley. People don't boo a four horsewomen. Clearly you have not been watching a lot of Charlotte Flair matches. Peter says, higgledy-piggledy-doo, everyone. Hope you're well rested, Tom, my lad. Evening all in chat. Welcome, Pete. Nice to see you, mate. Keyshawn says, after LA Knight loses, who would be a good bounce-back feud to keep him strong? I've mentioned that there is discussions of LA Knight versus Logan Paul. Eric says, what's next for Asuka? Again, I suspect it will be War Games for her. Riyadh says it'd be interesting who the top gaijin would be if Ospreay leaves. They're pushing Finlay, but it doesn't seem to be getting over. Here's the thing. If Ospreay leaves, he actually wasn't the top gaijin for a long time. Jay White was the guy. And yeah, then he left. Ospreay inherited that throne. He was already pretty much there at that point, let's be fair. They knew Jay White was going. But yeah, Dave Finlay seems to be it. I don't know if we're there yet. Hector says, if it was TNA, I don't know if it would be for a long-term or a shorter deal, because you know what Punk is. And yes, he brings in money, but long-term he has a history of backstage issues. What CM Punk is a flight risk. And I think we can all agree that that has always been the case. As regards TNA, because we're talking about it, we're talking about CM Punk, let's just say Impact Management are getting bold. The rebrand from Impact to TNA is essentially a return to the concept of total non-stop action. A return to the concept of we're here to put up a fight. And a very clear indication, and I've spoken to a couple of people involved in this, that they're coming for the number 2 spot. You heard me right. Impact have set their sights on overtaking AEW. Now, I don't know how possible this is, particularly with the TV deals AEW have, but let's just say interest in CM Punk is largely based around the idea that if they spend big on Punk and use the talent that they already have, and can I just say, they've got some tremendous talent, they can put themselves back on the main stage when it comes to wrestling. The rebrand from Impact to TNA is designed to stir the pot, to get people talking, and as much as anything else, to make a clear indication that they're coming for the position of second, to try and overtake AEW now that they know that AEW are on a bit of a downward trajectory, particularly knowing that AEW got a specific TV deal because of CM Punk. If CM Punk can bring that to Impact, that changes everything. Lauren says, I'd love to see Ospreay in AEW and Punk in a retirement home. Ouch. Keyshawn says that I could see an Aldis and KO feud coming. Not impossible, though I do feel Kevin Owens is going to be Nick Aldis's guy, if you get what I'm saying. Eric says, I personally love Brock's match of Omos at this year's Mania. It wasn't bad, though. Basically, Brock gets beat up, Brock wins. Roger says, what a great match. Mike Bailey versus Will Ospreay, Bound for Glory. One of the best matches in 2023. Got me off my seat. Speedball Mike Bailey will always get me off my seat. Seen him live in a soft play area. He had a wrestling match in a soft play area. It's a wonderful moment. KJ says, Tom, do you remember when Punk said how WWE reached out to him years ago? And he said they were playing games. Punk said it. I don't know if it's true. But if it is true, do you know what happened? I do know what happened. Punk at that time was negotiating directly with AEW and WWE. And he was basically changing the goalposts, which is a phrase that British fans are going to be very, very familiar with. Essentially, he was using the two of them to set them against each other and say, okay, but this one's offered this many million, and you've only offered that many million, so do you really want me? And eventually, WWE said, no, we don't anymore. So he went to AEW. Daniela says, Tom, do you feel there's any indication to what brand Jade Cargill will be on? She's on all three for a few seconds. I mentioned, I believe, on Friday that they have not yet decided. They are teasing us with a couple of feuds and seeing what the crowd get into. Kevin says, what's so special about Ospreay? Kevin, have you watched any Will Ospreay matches? Just going to open with that. Because I've seen him. I've met him. I've shaken his hand. There's something very special about Will Ospreay. Very special. Vain chance for TNA. Jack says, do you think Punk would keep trying to get to WWE if they offer him an NXT contract? Nope, because he would call that playing games. He would like to be the big fish in the small pond, hence why Impact is very appealing to him. Bailey says, good point about WrestleTalk. A lot of sites don't give them credit. A lot of, X accounts as it is now, don't give anyone credit. They work hard not to credit anyone so that they look like the ones who know everything. KJ says, Impact TNA needs to get on a better channel first. Blue says, I want Punk at home. Keyshawn says, could TNA be competition for AEW if they get more fans? Yes. Yeah. Leon says, Punk being used as an attraction like Brock in WWE would be perfect. We're on 50 likes, a great number, but we do have 82 people here. If you can, thumbs up, please consider doing so. We're also on, at the moment, a new record, 5,335 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, this might be the show for you. Please consider doing so. Roger says, I don't want to see LA Knight versus Roman unless LA Knight wins. You probably should not watch Crown Jewel then. Blair says, next AEW person to jump to WWE. Hard to say. There's a few people who have their contracts coming to an end, and a few people, who are interested. I'd lean towards Samoa Joe, but I don't know his contract situation. Eddie says, who'll be the Punk's first feud after return? No, because at this point we are nowhere near a contract being signed. KJ says, Punk being used like an attraction like Brock in WWE would boost his ego even more, just like it was in AEW. Raymond says, I'd like Bailey and Dakota to turn on Io and Kairi Sane comes in to even the odds. Not impossible, doesn't lead to a WrestleMania singles match though, and suggests that Io Sky is losing that championship. Leon says, losing Ospreay is a pretty big loss for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that I wholeheartedly agree with. Losing Jay White was big. Losing Will Ospreay will be bigger, because you're losing Gaijin left and right. It's AEW is starting to do some serious damage to New Japan. Razar says, do you know why Logan Paul is going to be on Raw tonight when he's set for a match against Ray, who's on SmackDown? Makes no sense, because he has a limited number of appearances. He's running for a couple of them now because we're getting closer to the end of the year. I don't necessarily believe he'll be taking a match spot at Survivor Series. Riyadh says, I hope that TNA bring back the six-sided ring. It made them different and I enjoyed it. Personally, I would love to see a return to the X Division. Genuinely would. There were some great matches. Spider-Bus says sometimes it seems AEW forget they have a women's champion. Since Britt Baker dropped the title, the AEW women's division has had bad booking, and I agree with that. Keyshawn says TNA, if they get a TV deal, I think can compete with AEW. Do people agree with that? Because we've spoken about that as a possibility. We've just spoken about that as being the intention. Do people genuinely think that Impact can start to catch up with AEW? Moxie says, yo Tom, they the twos and we the ones. Indeed, Moxie, welcome to the show. The other Mike says, Punk gonna have to kiss a lot of rings if he goes back to the WWE. You are not wrong. He has already started the process. Even while still in AEW, he had already started the process. Keyshawn says, any chance Ospreay goes to TNA? Yes, there is a chance of that. He has set his sights slightly higher, more on that shortly. Christoph says, I remember you and Nick calling Punk a flight risk from the first moment he went to AEW, and guess what? You called it. Well, I don't know if you know this, Christoph, but I'm a little witchy. Eric says, TNA has a long-awaited axe to grind with AEW. Love to see it. Leon says, hope TNA improves the production quality. Production hasn't been good for years now. I don't think that's unfair. Keyshawn says, Ospreay wouldn't feel like the star he is in AEW. It depends how they used him. If they immediately threw him against an Adam Cole, he'd get great matches, and he would feel like a big deal. Moxie says, Tom, what do you see happening at War Games? I'm saying Team J versus Team Jimmy, as in Jay, Cody, Sami, KO, and LA, versus Jimmy, Roman, Solo, Finn, and Priest. Not sure how we'll go with that one. It's more likely that it would be Team Cody versus Team Rhea. Rhea wouldn't actually be in the team, but she'd be managing from the outside and annoyed. Hello, Sean. Nice to see you. Joey says, hey, Tom, what do you expect to happen with this TNA relaunch? Are they trying to get a big TV deal? Yes, they are, Joey. If you want to nip it back to about 10 minutes into the video, we go into quite a bit of detail as to what TNA's plans are, and then a bit more 20 minutes into the video as well. Christoph says, I hope Triple H gives DIY a good long run. They were some of my favourites in NXT, and that era brought me back to wrestling, so I have a soft spot for that era. They met Mick Foley in Liverpool, says he's such a nice man. He is. I've heard very good things. Ed says, Will Ospreay is a better version of Jay White, which I can't actually argue with, apart from the fact that their characters are so different, and Jay White is just so hateable. I can't hate Will Ospreay, even though every now and then there are genuine reasons to. Daniela says, smash the like button if you haven't already. Big up, Tom. Loving the stream. Thank you, Daniela. If you haven't hit like yet, please do consider doing so. We're at 54. One more to 55. Blair says, greatest 90s WCW debut. I think historically it was always going to be Lex Luger. And the reason I took so long to answer that is because I forgot his name. Riyadh says, damn, Tom, didn't even realise you passed 5,000 subscribers. Congrats, man. Proud of you and your hard work. Well, when it comes to the subscribers, there was a big boost in them. I almost doubled my subscriber count because of a bit of YouTube advertising. It's paying off now. Like, we can see the views now and how big some of the videos are getting when it comes to view count now. So it is paying off, and it's proven very valuable. So yes, 5,335 at the moment. Spider-Bus says, after watching Soraya's title reign, I wonder why AEW put the title on her. She didn't do much with the title. It's a very fair question. Leo says, Will Ospreay is my second favourite pro wrestler right now. Sorry, Will, but Gunter will always be my number one favourite wrestler in the world. What a match that would be. Blue says, changing, moving the goalpost is familiar to us Americans as well. You know how good we are at stealing. Fair. Appreciate that. Keyshawn says, I could see LA Knight beating Logan Paul for that US title. Me too. One says, AEW will also take Mercedes money away from New Japan as well, Tom. Seems to be the case, yes, though they can, of course, be on both. Michael says, New Japan has a show this weekend in Vegas. Julia will be defending the women's title. Any chance Mercedes has some sort of appearance, even if not in person? Not impossible. I do think it's likely she'll make an appearance, though to my knowledge she's not cleared to wrestle yet. That said, Dakota Kai, very close. Aled says, hey Tom, any news on if TNA will bring back titles or bring back the old TNA titles? Not at this point. I've detailed in this video what they're planning to do and the next steps for TNA in this relaunch, but I don't have details on championships. Keyshawn says, TNA booking is clear of AEW, so I believe so. KJ says, I mean, come on, Tom. Punk was already the top guy and drew the most, so he probably felt like he was the man. Then you give him his own show of his own roster. He barely lost and had titles. Even though he didn't have a title, he had a title. It's weird, isn't it? King Azza says, do you think LA Knight and Roman will have a rematch? No. Rhea says, the TNA X division was great. Reminds me of the WCW Cruiserweight division from the Monday Night Wars. And John says, TNA brings back some childhood memories. Great to see it back. As regards whether or not TNA can catch up to AEW, Adam says if they get Punk, yes. Any Ohio, welcome, says TNA has a talent to compete with AEW. KJ suggests that Punk should keep kissing rings. Spider-Boss says after Saraya lost the title, do you still think Mercedes money will go to AEW? Yes, I do. Bailey says, how much does TNA have in cash flow to afford an expansion? There's no Shad Khan able to bankroll growth. I don't have the details and the exact figures. Naturally, I haven't done a financial analysis of them that I did of AEW many moons ago. Certainly I should probably consider it. Michael says, I don't see why TNA wouldn't be able to grow into number 2 promotion. Raymond says TNA can compete with AEW if TNA can land a new TV deal. Darren says, is CM Punk returning? Depends what you mean by returning. To wrestling, yes. To WWE, no. We did detail about 10 minutes into the video if you'd like to rewind exactly what the next plans seem to be and exactly who is interested and who is leaking what report. So you might quite enjoy that one. Jack says TNA can easily catch AEW, but if they get a real network to work on, AXS isn't going to do it. And Adrian makes a very fair point. First of all, TNA needs to re-sign Deonna Purrazzo, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Yes, WWE is interested. Chris Gannon says, I really thought Punk would rather sit out of wrestling altogether than go to anywhere other than WWE after AEW. At first, that seemed like it was going to be the situation that we landed on. However, long term, CM Punk seems to have changed his mind as regards to WWE. Raymond says, did NWA get a new TV deal in the US? I'm not sure on that one. It's not something I've followed. Keyshawn says, any Mustafa Ali or Shelton Benjamin news? Not at this point in time, because if I say, for example, they're going here, that's technically information that would be used to say that they breached their contract and they're non-compete. Eric says, what you said about AEW doing negative damage on New Japan gives me an idea. You should do a long-form video on the negative damage AEW is doing to the indie wrestling scene. If I'm going to do that, I feel I should also do a video on the damage that NXT UK did to the indie wrestling scene. Both did significant damage. James says there are news pages that are making posts saying you might not agree or like these people or respect these people, but they built everything with a picture of Shane and Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, they didn't, but people like to get engagement, and it doesn't even have to be positive engagement. Negative engagement also works. I'm sure you've seen, who's got that video about this person? It's just engagement farming. I'm very upset with some of the channels I've seen do it. I'm at least independent, so I'm probably going to do it anyway just to take the piss. Roger says TNA, the six-sided ring, will not be making a comeback according to PWInsider. Thank you very much, Roger, for bringing that to us and sourcing him. Yes, Riyadh, appreciate that. I am gutted. He's a very, very talented footballer, though I will say that we do have a very able deputy in place. Adrian says Lucky Ali is a huge get for WWE. Ali as in the one who left. Daniela says Rhea has been preventing Damien from cashing in on Seth. Drew's facing Seth at Crown Jewel. Rhea and Drew were spotted talking backstage. Rhea said to Damien, don't worry about Drew. Doesn't add up. I knocked over a bottle. Doesn't quite add up, no, but that's the intrigue of it all. They're adding to the story in layers. KJ says, what's your thoughts on Zero saying he's been told Punk signed to WWE? Well, that is illegal, and Zero News even saying it is grounds for a lawsuit, because it is simply, and I've got to be clear here, it is not possible or in any way legal for CM Punk to sign with WWE. So if they've reported that, they've reported illegal activity, and certainly we can ask questions to find out whether that's true, because the police would get involved. Chris Gannon says, I think Punk is you can read it, I'm not going to read it out, but every wrestler should be playing companies against each other to get the most money. That I agree with, and I think that's a huge benefit to AEW. I mean, Randy Orton did it himself, and Edge now, very much the same. The reason he got his return to WWE is because he was going to go somewhere else. Spider-Ball says, do you think Cena will face Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel? I find that likely, yes. I reported that previously. That seemed the most likely match for John Cena. Also says, what do you think about Shawn Michaels as booker of NXT? Well, NXT right now is going from strength to strength. In fact, a little bit on that one. NXT in particular has reached a point now where it can say with confidence it is regularly going to be beating AEW Dynamite in the ratings. NXT's growth recently has been largely on the back of main roster stars, but Shawn Michaels has used those opportunities to get eyes on regulars in NXT. And by getting eyes on those regulars, such as, for example, the rise of Tiffany Stratton, it has resulted in a huge increase of interest in NXT. Even when not advertising those big names that they needed to get to the rating that they did against AEW Dynamite, they are still getting very high numbers. So overall, NXT is in a very good spot. WWE and TKO are extremely happy with their third brand. Christoph says, for me personally, I see a good bloke in Jay White easily in real life. Well, I'm not sure if I'd have a drink of Osprey, to be honest. Just a vibe I get from those two, so don't get mad at me. What I will say is that in my experience, Will Ospreay has moved on and grown from a lot of the issues that he had previously. I've only had minor interactions with him, but they've been very positive and gave me an impression of someone who has indeed made mistakes, but has learned from them. Daniela says there has to be something going on between Drew and Rhea, as Rhea doesn't want Damien cashing in on Drew, as Drew is about to get a title match and Drew and Rhea were talking backstage, so it's interesting. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Pardon me. We're on 59 likes of 85 viewers. One more gets us up to 60. Please do consider being the one to get me up to that 60. And subscribe if you haven't already. We're currently on 5,335 subscribers. Lovely alliterative number. You can break a record today. You can break a record. Daniela, what I would say is you guys know for a long time I've been really excited about the idea of a feud between Drew McIntyre and Rhea Ripley. I just think it'd be a very exciting match. KJ says, Tom, can TNA go to a different channel as a company that owns them, owns AXS TV as well? That company's Anthem Media Group. Potentially, yes. Because while they may be hosted on AXS right now, with the number of people that they have in terms of talent, they could get onto a new show and a new channel, which opens a door, particularly has that door open for them if CM Punk arrives. Michael, thank you for bringing that in. Sean says, this came from Fightful according to Bet Online. Okay, so Sean, right. So best way I can explain this is you've actually sourced that perfectly and also imperfectly. So you've said from Fightful, I think you tried a little bit too hard and I appreciate that, but you said Fightful who has sourced Bet Online. Your source is Bet Online. LA Knight and The Rock are betting favourites to win the 2024 Men's Royal Rumble. Yeah, around this time last year, The Rock was favoured to win the Royal Rumble, wasn't he? Imagine being the people who bet money on that. Ray says TNA's new championship's already made, ready for TNA. Ray, where did that come from? Can you source it for me, please? The other Mike says Ospreay's overrated. What can Will Ospreay do that Ricochet can't? Well, we've not really seen that from Ricochet, and I think that's a great shame. Any Ohio says, I still remember how good the Knockouts division in TNA was. Always surprised the beautiful people never had a run in WWE. Ed, bringing in the sourcing, says NWA is rumoured via House of Wrestling to have secured a deal with the CW. That's an interesting place for them to be hosted on. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think Seth's run as a babyface has run its course? Not yet, no. Thank you, Adrian, for explaining that for me. I'm not familiar with Lucky Ali. Blue says, if Punk goes to Impact/TNA, I think it's a sign that WWE gave him a firm no, or that he's trying to prove to the WWE that he can actually work without being a problem. I think that's very true. I definitely think he's been given a firm no. Daniela says, I don't think Chad Gable will be the one to dethrone Gunter. Last week, Chad was backstage saying, I'm coming for you, Gunter and Alpha Academy are coming for Tag Team Gold. They're not, but at least they've got a lot of attention behind them and momentum boosting them also. KJ says, speaking of Randy and Edge using AEW, would you consider Bryan another as they wouldn't clear him and he threatened to leave? Yeah, it's a fair comment. It's a very fair comment. Alyssa thinks Judgment Day is overexposed. Alex says, is there any talks on who the Rumble winners will be next year? Yes, in fact there is. And in fact, while we're on that topic, I want to talk a little bit about the videos coming to the channel over the next few days and the next few weeks. As you guys know, I do a Sunday video now, a deep dive into a lot more detail of a certain topic. I will be looking to sort of cut it down a little bit and make it a bit more compact, but I do enjoy going into these deep dives and really diving into it. I really quite enjoy those. In addition to that, though, there is plenty more that I want to cover. As you guys know, I have a habit now. When a new pay-per-view is coming up, when the last one finishes, so after Crown Jewel, I will be doing my Survivor Series preview video, where I essentially make predictions as to what I think is likely to happen at Survivor Series. That will go live on Wednesdays. I also want to do, way out from the actual day, a Royal Rumble winners video. Simply, who will win the Royal Rumble? So, the information that I have, I will be sharing in that video. As I've mentioned as well, I am looking to do a little bit more in the members only section of the channel as well. If you're not a member, please do consider it. You can become a channel supporter for as little as $1 per month, and it does do a big, it's a big help for me as a channel to have that, because the more members you have, the more YouTube advertise you, and so on and so forth. I am trying to create more unique content that says to you what I do, how I do it, and how I make connections. I will be adding more of that to the channel over the next few months. Next up, by the way, next Sunday will be Dave Meltzer versus The Rock. So I'm going to be diving directly into all of the reporting from Wrestling Observer stating that The Rock will be returning to the WWE for WrestleMania, followed by the Wrestling Observer reporting that The Rock would not be returning for WrestleMania, to really do a deep dive on the fact that the Wrestling Observer is creating the rumour, getting a load of headlines for it, getting a load of backlinks for it, and getting a load of money for it, killing the rumour, getting a load of headlines for it, getting a load of backlinks for it, and getting a load of money for it, and then profiting when The Rock does not turn up. I just think that would be fun to really dive into. Leon says, about a month ago, Will Ospreay revealed WWE offered $1 million to buy Rev Pro, but they turned down the offer. And after nearly destroying the UK indie scene a few years ago, thank God they turned it down. They did do some serious damage. I don't think it's been really highlighted how much damage they did. I am looking to dive into that a little more in the near future, using information from people that you may know, in fact. Pardon me. Adrian says, any Colby Carino news? Nope, I have nothing on that person. Sorry. Spider-Boss says, what will happen next? What will happen first? NXT call-ups or WWE rebuilding the tag team division? Fair question. Thank you guys for the blessed views. Christoph says, thanks for sharing your experience with Ospreay. I can only speak from my angle and my opinion. I personally have never had a bad experience with him, but I am aware that he has certainly made mistakes and people have suffered for it. Keyshawn says, who books for TNA? I don't actually know at this point in time. There's quite a little committee backstage. They do have a creative team. Chris says, I just made it number 60. Thank you kindly. We are on 62 likes now. Chris says, I have a friend who's got mutual friends with Ospreay. He's very generous with people, often pays for group meals. Thank you very much for bringing that to the table. I very much appreciate that experience being shared. Spider-Boss says, I think NXT should rely more on their roster instead of using main roster talents. They are actively doing so right now. Hector says, with Nick Aldis taking this brand war seriously, is there any chance we get either stakes for Survivor Series or possibly more brand-specific PLEs? Brand-specific is not currently the plan, though there is a discussion about more PLEs so they can go to different countries and really expand in that manner. The PLEs themselves would be a bit less exciting going forwards, but the way that Triple H rotates actually suits that very well. Stakes for Survivor Series, at this point I'm not aware of any particular stakes other than bragging rights. On Twitch we have Lost Anonymous account saying CM Punk is not going to return. Probably want to check out the video where I detail exactly what's, likely. KJ says, it seems based off the WrestleTalk Survivor Series map, the Survivor Series could have a stage similar to Clash of the Castle. People kept talking about the old MSG setup, but it's different. Thank you for clarifying, KJ. Daniela says, after losing his Shinsuke last week, what could be next for Ricochet on Raw? At this point, it seems likely he'll fade back into the background a little bit. I think it's a shame, but I do think he's been treated very well so far. Will says, if when NXT gets a new deal, will they run shows outside the PC? Seems unlikely at this point. Why would you essentially give someone money for something and then watch them change it all? Kevin says, your thoughts about intergender matches? If done right, they're good. I've watched a lot of them on the indie circuit, but I do feel it's just, there's too many times where it very much isn't. Zane, you've said your source is this person. Source of what? What are you referring to? KJ says, I don't know if you can answer this, but if WWE never had interest in signing Punk, what was the point of ever talking to him? Or is it possible Punk blew it, which I feel wouldn't happen as he's desperate? I'm referring to the point when WWE and AEW both talking to CM Punk about returning to wrestling. CM Punk chose AEW. Since then, he's approached people in WWE. WWE have said no. Christoph says, something I would love to know more about. Do you know what New Japan can do, already does, to keep foreign wrestlers long-term, even when they become really big? It is primarily quite long-term contracts. For example, Jay White's contract, to my knowledge, was about 7 years. It's a pretty solid contract. As much as anything, they just treat them really well. Alyssa, I'm not sure at this point what the plans are for Cody Rhodes, so I'm confident he will be doing something with Judgment Day, yes. Eric says, I will be seated for that video this Sunday. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Okay, so Zane, I'm guessing this is what you're referring to, and I'm going to dive into this because you not realise what you've said here. You said that according to JD from NY, love it when his name comes in here, LA Knight is one of, if not the, odds-on fan favourite to win the 2024 Royal Rumble match. So to be clear, what JD from NY has told you is that LA Knight might be, but definitely is, the favourite by fans only to win Royal Rumble. So he's learned that information by talking to all the fans, and even then, he's still not sure. What an exclusive. AA Sports says, now that Bianca is back, do you think she will join Lashley's group in the long term? Long term, yes. Long term being the key. Chris says, we'll know the European indie scene is recovered when NXT Europe finally gets launched. Not sure on that one. It does depend who they've signed. Raymond says, any news on the potential return of Cora Jade? Incoming, not quite there yet. King Azza says, do you think Cody will win the Royal Rumble? No. Spider-Boss says, sometimes I wonder why Cora Jade is off TV. I thought she'd be the top heel of the NXT women's division. There are many, many different possible reasons why someone might be off TV, some of which we should not be knowing. David says Ospreay could be the face of NXT Europe. He's bigger than that. And Vajit says I don't want Ospreay, to be honest. Fair enough. Sean says I did my research and the 2002 days, now 2005 days since John Cena last won a singles match, was back at the greatest Royal Rumble when he defeated Triple H. That was a long, long time ago. Long time ago. Adrian says I think Regal and Johnny Saint are responsible for the monopoly in European indie scene, which comes down from WWE and Triple H. Keyshawn says WWE doesn't need to sign Punk ASAP. They can sign him a year from now if things get stale. They also don't need to sign him at all. Bismo says I'm late on watching. We'll rewind to catch the beginning, but wanted to tell you thanks, Tom, for all that you do. Thank you, Bismo. I very much appreciate you for saying that. Oh, gotcha, KJ. Because he rang them up, basically. If someone walks up to you and says hi, you're probably going to say hi back. Hey, Charlie, how you doing, mate? Spider-Boss says, the more I watch wrestling media coming up about Mercedes, I get why she doesn't talk to wrestling media. Yeah, it's real apparent real quick, isn't it? Also says, I've seen Ospreay this year and the guy doesn't miss. His match with Omega was a banger. Moxie says, Tom, what's your opinion on JD from NY206? The man knows that you need trolls to survive nowadays, and my God, does he earn the ire of everyone, intentionally. Basically, none of the exclusives I've ever seen brought to me from him are exclusives. He doesn't have news. What he shares is basically dramatic opinions, and then it gets people talking. I don't like the guy. I don't respect the guy. Michael says, I don't really see the value of WWE signing Punk. He's already at the end of his career in his mid-40s. He's not the future. And I do think that is a very fair comment. What's left to talk about? Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay, in an interview with Metro, has opened the door on the possibility of a WWE contract. Now, to my knowledge, he's still primarily interested in a AEW contract. But as we've mentioned a few times, a number of wrestlers, when their free agency comes up, basically talk to lots of different prospects to try and get a deal that works the best for them. I've mentioned many times that a lot of people who will be signing for WWE over the next few years will be doing so on limited date contracts. Will Ospreay does not want to live full time in the United States. He also, in many ways, still wants to work with New Japan. They've given him a lot. He's said to be really interested in ensuring that he gives a lot back. So personally, I think AEW is the most likely, but he's trying to get a little bit more money for his efforts. What I will say is that the WWE are definitely interested. Negotiations are not ongoing at this point in time, but if at any point Will Ospreay makes further inclinations that he's interested, let's just say they absolutely will not let this one go. And yes, as regards the report that there will not be a Raw versus SmackDown War Games, I can confirm that the plan at the moment is not for brand versus brand warfare. No intention of brand versus brand warfare going forwards for War Games. I reported a few months ago that War Games was incoming. It is now about to be in play, but there is no intention to go brand versus brand again. Sean says, I remember hearing that JD said Cody had re-signed with WWE. He must have heard it from fans. Could have heard it from me. Alyssa says, do you agree with me the feud between Judgment Day and Cody Rhodes drugging him? What did I miss? Chris says, WrestleNomics put out a graph showing attendances for WWE and AEW. Some very interesting patterns. House shows falling, SmackDown up, Raw falling slightly, Dynamite falling. Thank you for bringing that as well, Chris. You really get the vibe here. Like, I'm not familiar with your name. Please forgive me if I've seen you before. But to my knowledge, you're new here and you really get the vibe here. Your sourcing and everything's great. Thank you for joining. KJ says, if I'm WWE, I'm going to try and get Ospreay. He's a great watch. King Azza says, do you think Seth will get booed if he beat Gunter at WrestleMania? Yeah, probably. Alyssa, the Rock video goes live on Sunday. Roger says, JD from NY said he's always right with his wrestling opinions. And doesn't that immediately tell you that the guy's not worth listening to? Sean says, looks like WWE is building up Isla and Alba. Do they dethrone Piper and Chelsea? Not sure. At this point, they're just trying to make you watch the women's tag division. Spider-Boss says, one thing's for sure about Raw. We will see the Judgment Day versus Cody Rhodes every week. I wouldn't say every week, but certainly we're seeing some combination of it. The headlines that we've been through today: the return schedule for Brock Lesnar, the return intention for CM Punk, the reason Impact Wrestling is rebranding as TNA, the fact that TNA is looking to try and overtake AEW, the possibility of CM Punk going to Impact, and why Impact are so interested in making this happen. Will Ospreay potential return plans, where NXT is sitting at the moment on the global scale, and how happy WWE are with those numbers, plus more details on what we'll be doing on the channel over the next few weeks, a Survivor Series preview video, Royal Rumble winners, detailing all the information I have there, and next week another deep dive into wrestling media, as we say, Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer versus The Rock. We will also be doing more videos for our members only section. If you've not yet done so, please consider becoming a channel member. You can join for as little as $1 per month, or if you'd like to donate a little more, you can become a member for $5 per month. Very much appreciate all of you for watching and for hitting like. We've had 63, 2 more gets us to 65. The comments that I'm reading now will be the last one, so if you have any further questions, get them in nice and fast, please. Raymond says, Ospreay versus Rollins, make it happen. Keyshawn says, JD's a mark for himself. Can't argue with that. Eddie says, if I was Triple H, I would get Julia and Okada. To my knowledge, Kazuchika Okada has no interest whatsoever in joining the WWE. Particularly after being stumped by Braun Strowman. Now, some of you know what I'm talking about, and those that don't need to look it up, because it was cruel and it was vindictive. KJ says, JD isn't a source, he just talks about news that he believes, which is usually anti-WWE. He's a firm believer in Vince never lost control, but ever since someone reported Vince was out, he finally believes. You should probably watch more, spoiler warning. Adrian says, WWE needs some younger faces in main event scene. Reigns is 38, Cody 38, Rollins 37, LA Knight 41, Priest 42, Nakamura 43, Balor 42, Owens 39, Zayn 39. They are developing the next level as we speak. It's the reason Austin Theory is getting so much love, for example, and Dominic Mysterio as well. Sean says, I hope Becky versus Indy main events Raw tonight, but it probably won't. Moxie says, Tom, where can I scroll to see the Brock Lesnar news? It was pretty much the first thing I said. Skip back to the beginning of this video and you'll see plenty of it. Moxie, as you are on Twitch, you will need to jump over to YouTube to make that happen. And when you do, click like me, mate. I appreciate it. Razar says, why has WWE advertised War Games for Survivor Series? Last year they released a whole press thing for it. Basically to try and keep excitement up and to make sure people turn up. They don't need to announce it yet, so they're not going to. They're selling tickets without it. Spider-Boss says, in almost 3 years, the 24/7 title had more TV time than the women's tag team titles. You're not wrong. Keith Sean says, I feel like AEW keep bringing in these new Japanese guys, often makes them less important. I won't go that far. I mean, Kota Ibushi's Kota Ibushi. You don't turn down Kota Ibushi. Roger says, what was your first memory of wrestling? Kane, chokeslamming, I want to say Billy Gunn. It was probably the Road Dogg, but the Road Dogg did pick up a concussion in that match. They didn't notice because they didn't know about concussions at the time, but he definitely picked up a concussion from a D'Lo Brown lowdown. Right, okay. So, we have been live for 55 minutes. We've reached 64 likes. We peaked at 90 viewers, a lovely number, a lovely big number as well. Michael says, do you think WWE fans are kind of expecting, in a way, Punk to be a Survivor Series could backfire on them? Yeah, it's possible we get the first CM Punk chant in a very long time. But the WWE would be fine with that, I'm sure. Absolutely fine with it. The next time you see me will be on Friday for more spoiler warning. We will be making our Survivor Series preview video the Wednesday after Crown Jewel. We will have our Royal Rumble winners video coming up in the next few weeks. The next time you will see me, if you're a channel member, will be in the next couple of days on the channel membership section, so check that out. I think it'll be something you'll quite enjoy. And of course on Saturday will be Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer versus The Rock. I think that title will get quite a few views. But in the meantime, huge thank you to all of you for your time, for your engagement, for your chat, for keeping me company, for just being lovely people. I really enjoy these lives and I thank all of you for them. But I've been Tom Colohue, you have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.